Hey, what's going on, guys? How's it going? This lesson is a very something I've been looking forward to doing for a while now. This lesson explains how to play over the entire fretboard in a particular key. Okay. Now you can play in a major key, or you can play in a minor key. Okay. If you stick strictly within just one key, it's called you're playing diatonically. Okay. You're using the notes diatonic to the key. All right. So if the band says you're playing in C major, okay, and you play the C major scale, which consists of the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, and you only hit those notes on the fretboard, you only hit C's, D's, E's, F, G's, A's, and B's on the fretboard. If you only hit those notes and you don't hit any other notes, you're playing diatonically to the key of C major, okay? And the same thing for minor keys. If the band says that you're playing in the key of E minor, for example, E minor consists of the notes E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and then it starts over again on E. So if you only use those 7 notes and you don't hit any other notes except for E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, and D, then you're playing diatonic to the key of E minor. Okay? Now, if you're in a major key, then your tonic note is going to be the note of the major scale. So if you're in the key of C major, your tonic note is going to be C. Alright? If you're in the key of E minor, your tonic note is going to be E. Alright? Pretty straightforward. So, I'm going to teach you how to play diatonically within a key all up and down the fretboard using 5 positions. Okay? 5 different patterns. I have another lesson that shows you how to do it using 7 different patterns. I initially learned how to do this when I first started. I learned the 7 pattern method. However, over the years I've since reduced it to 5 patterns because I realized I only use these 5 patterns that I'm going to show you. But in case you're interested in learning the way that I learned it, I also have a lesson showing you how I do it using 7 patterns. So if you want to watch that video, feel free to do that. So with that said, let me get on to it. Okay, so before I get into the 5 patterns, one thing you absolutely have to understand is the relative minor-major concept. Okay, I made a video lesson on that. Make sure you review that. I'm going to go over it real quick right now. But understand that the relative, or the minor key, or the minor scale, and the major scale are the exact same thing. The only difference is the tonic note within that scale that you play. Alright, so it's a lot easier to demonstrate this using diagrams. So this diagram that you see right here, you're going to see a scale pattern. This is one of the patterns, one of the 5 patterns we're going to be using. You're going to see that there is a red dot in a couple locations and there's a white dot in a couple locations. Alright? So the red dot indicates the major tonic note. The white dot indicates the minor tonic note. Okay? Now these are the exact same notes. The only difference is what note you start on. Okay, so using this pattern that you see right here, if I was to start on the white note and go through the scale, it's a minor scale. Okay, so if I start on, I'm going to use the A minor scale for this example, starting on the 5th fret. 5th fret, note A. Starting on the white note. Okay, so I started on the white note and I ended on the white note using those notes that you see in the scale diagram. That makes that the A minor scale. Now I'm going to run through the exact same scale, but I'm going to start on the red note and I'm going to end on the red note using the same exact notes. Okay, you see how I use the exact same notes. The only difference was the location of the tonic note. Okay, so in all 5 of these patterns, you're going to see that there's a white note in these patterns and a red note in these patterns. The white note indicates where the minor tonic note would be, and the red note indicates where the major tonic note would be. Okay, so the point is once you know these 5 patterns, you can solo in any key, major or minor, all right? Because it's all the same notes. The only difference is the location of your tonic note. And again, because everything on the guitar is movable, you can do this in any key. So the example I'm going to show you is going to be using the key of A minor and C major, which are the same thing because they're relative to each other. But you can do this in any key, okay? You can do this in any key because the patterns related to each other are always going to be the same. That's how the guitar works. The guitar is movable. All right, so if you want a more in-depth explanation about the concept of the relative minor and major and how they're relative to each other, review that lesson. But for now, I'm going to get on to the 5 patterns. Okay, so I wanted to zoom in on the neck here to show you these patterns. So again, I'm going to be using the key of A minor / C major. Same thing, same notes, but you can use this in any key, okay? So your first pattern is the pattern we just went over, okay? That's pattern number 1. Excuse me. That pattern looks like this. Okay, and those extra notes are just continuing up the scale. Again, if you start on the red dot, it becomes a major scale. Okay, starting on the white dot is your minor scale. Starting on the red dot is your major scale. Okay, so that's pattern number 1. Okay, so here's your pattern 2. All right, so pattern 2, it starts on the same location that your pinky was on in the previous pattern. Okay, in the previous pattern, your pinky was on the 8th fret because we were using A minor / C major as our example. Now, in this example, this pattern, we're using our first finger on the 8th fret, okay? Same note, but now we're starting on the 8th fret with our first finger. So this pattern looks and sounds like this. And if we want to continue up the scale, we can use these notes too. Okay? Now, again, I started on the red note and I ended on the red note, meaning that I was playing the major scale. I can use the same exact pattern for the minor scale too, but I have to start on the white note and end on the white note. Okay, so in this case, the white note is located here on the 12th fret, so it's going to sound like this. And if I want to continue up, I can. Oops. Okay, so that's continuing up that pattern. So starting on the white note and ending on the white note. Okay, I just played the minor scale within that pattern because I started on the white note and I ended on the white note. But all the other notes that are below it and above it are still diatonic to the key, okay? Because this pattern is applicable to both A minor and C major, because they're relative to each other. Okay, so that's pattern 2. So hopefully you see how patterns 1 and 2 are connected to each other. In fact, let me give you a diagram. Okay, so you see this diagram here with both of the patterns connected to each other. So if I wanted to play the major scale in the first pattern, it would sound like this. Now if I want to play the major scale in the second pattern, it would sound like this. Notice how it sounded exactly the same, right? I started on the same note, I progressed through the notes of the scale, and it sounded the same. I was just using 2 different patterns. Okay, now let me show you how it sounds and works with minor using both patterns, okay? So pattern number 1, minor. I'm just going to do 1 octave this time. Okay, that's the first pattern. Here's the second pattern. Okay? Okay, it's the same thing. It's actually, the second pattern was an octave higher, but hopefully you recognize that they sounded the same and they were containing the same notes, okay? So, pattern 1, pattern 2, you now have an area of the fretboard that is ranging from the 4th fret all the way to the 13th fret, okay? So using the C major / A minor scale example, you now know how to solo within the key of A minor / C major using this much of the fretboard, okay? So now let me get to the next pattern. Okay, so this third pattern now has your tonic notes located on the A string, okay? Pattern number 1 had your tonic notes located on the E string, the low E string. Okay, down here, your minor tonic was on the 5th fret, your major tonic was 3 notes up on the 8th fret, okay? So now this third pattern takes place up here on the 12th fret to the 15th fret. Again, your first finger is where the minor tonic goes, and your pinky is where the major tonic goes, okay? So this would sound like this if I were to start on the minor note, which is the white note. And if I wanted to keep going up, I'm going to slide out of the pattern for 1 second. Okay, so I slid out of the pattern for 1 second, but I just wanted to show you the resolution, okay? So again, running through 2 octaves, starting on the minor tonic, using this pattern. Okay, and I just slid out of that pattern in 1 note. Okay, so I can run through the same pattern starting on the red note. I'm only going to do 1 octave this time. Okay, again, using the same notes. So hopefully you're understanding that within all these patterns, it doesn't matter. It works for both major keys and minor keys. Okay, it doesn't matter. They're the same notes relative to one another. Okay, so that's your pattern number 3. Okay, so here's your pattern number 4. Okay, so pattern 1 was in between the 5th and the 8th fret area. Pattern 2, I said, was in between the 8th and the 13th fret area. Pattern 3 was in between the 12th and the 15th fret area. Alright, now pattern number 4 is a way that I use to connect patterns number 1 and 2 together. Okay, so it's kind of in between patterns number 1 and 2. I mean, really, you only need these 3 patterns that I showed you, and you have the whole fretboard covered. But if you want to use a linking pattern that connects patterns 1 and 2, you can use this 4th pattern that I'm now showing you. Okay, this is the way how I kind of visualize it. So basically the way this works is you're using your middle finger. I don't mean to flip you the bird here, but you use your middle finger on the red tonic note. Okay, so this would be the start of your major scale, 8th fret. Okay, in the first pattern you started on the 8th fret with your pinky. On the second pattern you started on the 8th fret with your first finger. With this pattern you flip the bird and you start on the 8th fret with your middle finger. Okay, so doing the major scale, red note to red note. Okay, so that was major to major. And again, I can use all of these same notes for the minor scale. Okay, so rather than starting on this white note here on the D string, I'm actually going to come out of this pattern a little bit. I'm going to start here on the 5th fret. Okay, we already learned this from pattern 1, but I'm going to use that as my starting point just to show you how I can run through this pattern 2, going minor tonic to minor tonic. Okay, so starting on this 5th fret here. Okay, so you see how pattern 1 and this new pattern is connected, and it's also connected to pattern 3. This stuff's all connected together, okay? That's why when I initially learned this stuff, I learned it in 7 patterns. I realized that it could be reduced to less patterns, okay? So with that said, that's your 4th pattern. Now let me show you the 5th pattern. Okay, so here's your 5th pattern here. And your 5th pattern, just like the 4th pattern connected the patterns down here, your 5th pattern is going to connect your patterns up here, okay? So, and what I mean by the patterns up here is everything after the 12th fret repeats itself, okay? So, since we were using the example of the A minor key between frets 5 and 8 as pattern number 1, we also have pattern number 1 up here as well, because the 17th fret is equivalent to the 5th fret, okay? So your pattern number 1 is up here again. So now we just want to connect what I called pattern number 3 with pattern number 1, okay? So that is this middle stuff right here, okay? So pattern number 4, I like to start using my pinky, and in this case my pinky is starting using on the minor tonic note, so that's going to go like this. Okay, now notice I skipped a note here, but that's okay because this red note up here on the 13th fret of the B string is the same as this note. Okay, they're the same notes, so you can actually play this in a couple different ways. But I just want you to understand that this is just the linking pattern between what I called pattern number 3 and your higher pattern number 1, which is what I showed you down here, okay? And then of course you can start on your major note too. So I previously just started on the minor note, the minor tonic note with my pinky, so I could start on my major note as well. And I'm going to go through 2 octaves, and I'm going to have to leave this pattern for a second, but you'll see what I'm talking about. So starting on the major tonic. Alright, sorry I hit a bad note again. Let me try that one more time. Okay, so same pattern. I just started on the red tonic note, and in order to resolve it, I had to actually go up a little bit into what is pattern number 1 again. And then of course you already know pattern number 1, but so you can just play that starting on the 17th fret or major. Alright, so that is your pattern number 5. Okay, so that's the 5 pattern method of playing the diatonic scale up and down the neck of the guitar. Okay, so this can apply to any key, major or minor, it doesn't matter. What matters is your starting point, and if it's a major key, you want to make sure that you are focusing around the major tonic note. If it's a minor key, you want to make sure you're focusing around the minor tonic note, okay? So say the band says, alright, we're in the key of G minor. Knowing these patterns, you now know what your G minor framework is. You know all the notes of the G minor scale. You may not necessarily know the actual note names, but you know these patterns. So if the band says you're in the key of G minor, you come down here, the 3rd fret, that's your note G, okay? And then you can apply your minor scale pattern. Okay, and then again, everything repeats after the 12th fret, so you can play that same pattern up here on the 15th fret. Alright, so now it's just a matter of connecting everything in between those, right? And that's what those patterns were for. So you have your first pattern, which we just did here, and then you have your second pattern, which can start with where your pinky is, but you move your first finger there. But now remember, that's a major scale, so you want to know the location of your tonic note within this new pattern. And remember, your location of your tonic note is here. Okay? But all the notes are still available to you. Okay, you just want to make sure that you end on your tonic note, because that's what makes it minor. Okay, so you have a G here, and then you have a G here. And then again, that G is also the start of what we call pattern 3. Okay, and then you move up to this pattern. And then you have those other patterns that I showed you which connect, which further make the connections, okay? Personally, I only use 3 patterns in my playing. When I'm soloing, I'm either up here, I'm down here, or right in the middle, or I use the 3-note per string pattern, okay? So I really only use patterns 1, 2, and 3. I just showed you patterns 4 and 5 just to further connect things, okay? And as you'll see when I go to show you the 7 pattern method, you'll see that it's kind of unnecessary to have 7, okay? I think it's even unnecessary to have 5 patterns, but you know, there is, I'll show you the reasoning for why they have 7 patterns. There's a reason for it. And again, this can be used in major keys as well. It's just the location of your tonic note, okay? The same stuff applies. So the band says you're in the key of A major, okay? So you want to use your first pattern, but make sure that if you're using pattern 1, you're starting with your pinky. That's the location of the note A. Okay, so you can do that pattern. Okay, or you can move up to here. Or you can move up to here. Alright, or you can move up to here. Alright, or you can go. Alright, because up here it's the same thing as down here again, remember? And I didn't show you the patterns 4 and 5 because I said I only used the 3, but now you see how this all spans across the fretboard. You're using the same notes. So if I'm in the key of A major, I can solo here, I can solo here, I can solo here, I can solo here. It's a lot of fun. It'll take a little bit of time to get used to. It'll take a few months of really hammering these patterns into your, into your head, but eventually you'll get it, and before you know it, you'll be able to just walk around and connect patterns like, it'll be like second nature. So with that said, that is the 5-method way of playing the full diatonic scale up and down the neck. Okay? Thanks for watching.